Imagine this. The lights go down, the stage is set, and Kendrick Lamar, the man once crowned as hip-hop's most unstoppable lyricist, releases what many fans now whisper about as his worst album. But here's where the story takes a shocking, almost unbelievable turn. Because while critics ripped it apart and the internet drowned in memes, behind the scenes something else was happening, something so dramatic it could change the way we look at music forever. Insiders claim that this so-called flop didn't just spark controversy. It opened wounds, forced confessions, and sent shockwaves through the industry. Picture artists breaking down in studios, friends turning into enemies, and private therapy sessions becoming the new green rooms. Yes, you heard that right, this one album allegedly pushed some of the biggest names in the game to confront secrets they've been burying for years. Fans are asking, was this album a hidden message? Desperate cry for help, or a mirror held up to a broken industry? And what came out in those therapy rooms may never have been meant for the public. Stick around, because this is not just about music, it's about betrayal, redemption, and the kind of truth that could tear entire careers apart. When Kendrick dropped the album that fans now call his worst, nobody expected the ripple effect it would have. At first, it seemed like just another misstep from a legendary artist. Critics lined up to tear it apart, bloggers made endless think pieces, and social media was merciless. People laughed at the beats, mocked the lyrics, and even questioned if Kendrick had finally lost touch with reality. But hidden beneath the noise was a story of raw vulnerability, of deep emotional turmoil that spilled far beyond Kendrick himself. Insiders say that when the sessions for the album ended, Kendrick didn't just walk away from the studio. He walked away carrying ghosts he could no longer ignore. Friends close to him remember those nights vividly. One of his producers allegedly confessed he'd sit there in the corner after recording, staring at the wall. I'd ask him if he was good, and he'd just shake his head like the weight of the world was crushing him. This energy seeped into the music, even if fans weren't ready to hear it. But what no one realized was that the album's awkward honesty started to trigger other artists. Big names in the industry, people who had carefully hidden their scars, suddenly began to recognize themselves in the mess of Kendrick's worked out. Rumor has it that after the album dropped, Kendrick hosted a private listening party at his home. It wasn't glamorous like you'd imagine, no red carpets or flashing cameras. Instead, it was dimly lit, with bottles half empty and an air of unease hanging over the room. Some of his closest peers showed up, names we can't officially confirm, but who are whispered about in fan forums. During that night, as the tracks played, something cracked open. One artist reportedly stood up, slamming a glass on the table, yelling, "Man, this ain't music. This is a confession booth." The room went silent. Those present said tears followed. What began as frustration turned into an avalanche of revelations. Artists started confessing about the demons they'd been hiding, family issues, addictions, betrayals, regrets over choices that haunted them. One insider revealed that a well-known female rapper admitted she hadn't spoken to her mother in years because of unresolved childhood pain, and hearing Kendrick's messy vulnerability made her realize she couldn't keep running from it. Another rapper allegedly revealed that his marriage was hanging by a thread, but he buried it under tours, money, and distractions. The energy that night was so heavy that people described it as suffocating. One friend told a blog, "You could feel the room trembling, not because of bass, but because everyone was bleeding emotionally." What was supposed to be a celebration of music turned into something more like a therapy circle. But this was just the beginning. As weeks went by, more stories trickled out. Fans noticed certain artists suddenly disappearing from social media, canceling shows, or announcing breaks. Rumors spread that therapy had become the new quiet trend in Hollywood, and at the center of it all was Kendrick's so-called flop. Imagine the irony: an album laughed at by fans was secretly reshaping the private lives of some of the biggest stars. Then came the drama no one expected. Insiders say that within Kendrick's own family, tension exploded. One of his relatives reportedly accused him of airing out family secrets in the album, calling him selfish for dragging private matters into the spotlight. A heated argument allegedly broke out during a family dinner, with plates being pushed across the table and voices rising. One witness claimed someone shouted, "You're not saving anyone, you're exposing us." Kendrick, quiet as always, allegedly just bowed his head and whispered, maybe the truth was always supposed to come out. But if his family was divided, so were his fans. While some argued that Kendrick had lost his touch, others began to say he was ahead of his time, that the uncomfortable rawness of the album was exactly what the industry needed. Online fan wars broke out, with threads full of accusations, betrayal, and defense. Some fans even claimed the hate was orchestrated by industry insiders who didn't want the truth exposed. Things got even messier when another well-known rapper, someone who had once collaborated with Kendrick, publicly mocked the album in an interview, calling it the soundtrack of a breakdown. But behind the scenes, sources say this same rapper had secretly entered therapy himself after the listening party. The hypocrisy shocked insiders, and whispers of betrayal spread quickly. One of Kendrick's friends allegedly confronted him, saying, "How can you clown him in public when you cried in private?" That confrontation nearly turned physical, with security stepping in. Fans remained unaware of these behind-the-scenes explosions, but within the industry, the tension was palpable. The so-called flop wasn't just music anymore, it had become a mirror, forcing people to see themselves in ways they hated. And the more they resisted, the uglier the drama became. The turning point came when the leaked text threads are mine. Allegedly between two artists who were at the private party, the texts hinted at how deep the confessions went. One text read, "Bro, I didn't think I'd break down like that. I've been holding that in for years." Another replied, "Same, but now I'm scared. What if it all comes out?" Fans went wild trying to decode who the artists were, with names trending for days. Nobody ever confirmed the leak, but it only added fuel to the chaos. Kendrick, meanwhile, remained silent. He didn't respond to critics, didn't address the leaks, didn't explain the album. That silence became deafening, leaving fans and peers to fill in the blanks. Was he protecting himself, or was he waiting for the storm to pass? Either way, his silence only made the speculation louder. By the end of the first month after the album's release, the narrative had shifted. What started as laughter and ridicule had turned into whispers of therapy sessions, broken friendships, and families being torn apart. Everyone connected to Kendrick seemed to be caught in the crossfire, and no one knew where it would end. But the story was far from over. Because as Kendrick's circle crumbled, new voices began to emerge, voices that would take the chaos to an even darker and more personal level. And that's where the real drama began to unfold. The weeks that followed were anything but calm. Insiders say the industry was shaken, with whispers echoing through recording studios and backstage dressing rooms. Some artists who had been present at Kendrick's private listening night were reportedly trying to cover their tracks, terrified their confessions would leak. One well-known producer claimed he received late-night calls from rappers begging him to delete voice memos of emotional breakdowns that had accidentally been recorded that evening. "They were scared, man," he said quietly to a journalist off-record. Big names, the ones you think got it all together, begging like kids who didn't want their secrets out. But secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks. The first public crack came when a rising R&B singer, known for her glamorous image, posted a cryptic tweet. "Funny how a so-called flop album made me face truths I ran from for years." Fans immediately connected the dots, storming her comments, demanding answers. Though she deleted the post within minutes, screenshots had already gone viral. Speculation exploded, with fan theories linking her breakdown to Kendrick's work. She tried to backtrack in interviews, laughing it off as a random mood, but the damage was done. The illusion of perfection was broken, and she wasn't the only one. Another rapper who had once bragged about being untouchable shocked his followers when he suddenly canceled an entire tour, citing personal reasons. What followed was a leaked voicemail that allegedly revealed him sobbing, saying, "I can't keep performing lies every night." Fans were stunned, and soon the hashtag truth wave began trending, with people pointing to Kendrick's album as the spark. Of course, not everyone was happy with the ripple effect. Kendrick's critics doubled down, calling him reckless. One rival rapper blasted him in a live stream, saying he put his demons on wax and now everybody wanna act broken. "This ain't therapy, it's manipulation." But even as he ranted, commenters flooded the chat, reminding viewers that this very rival had disappeared for 2 weeks after the infamous listening party. The hypocrisy wasn't lost on fans, who flooded timelines with side-by-side clips exposing the contradictions. Meanwhile, Kendrick's own inner circle was cracking further. Insiders say his partner confronted him late one night, furious that he had allowed so many personal details to bleed into his art. "You think honesty makes you a prophet," she allegedly shouted, but honesty without boundaries destroys families. One neighbor reportedly overheard the argument, describing shouting, slamming doors, and the sound of something glass breaking. The neighbor added, "It didn't sound like a normal fight, it sounded like pain." Kendrick, known for his quiet, reserved nature, allegedly broke down during that fight. Sources claim he admitted that he didn't even like the album himself, that it wasn't supposed to be music. It was supposed to be a purge, a way to get everything out before it destroyed him from the inside. The revelation left his partner torn between empathy and fury. "So we're all collateral damage to your purge?" She allegedly responded before storming out, but while his home life spiraled, something unexpected happened in the fan community. Online support groups began forming, with listeners saying Kendrick's so-called worst album had given them the courage to face their own hidden struggles. Fans shared emotional posts about going to therapy, reaching out to estranged family, or finally opening up about addictions. One viral video showed a young man breaking down as he said, "Kendrick made me realize that pretending to be strong was killing me. I booked my first therapy session today." The clip racked up millions of views, fueling a wave of emotional testimonials. The media caught on quickly, framing Kendrick as an accidental healer. Magazines and podcasts began debating whether the album was actually a masterpiece in disguise. Ahead of its time, too raw for casual listeners, but with praise came more backlash. Industry insiders who had mocked the album fell exposed, and some began fighting back with smear campaigns. One anonymous blog post accused Kendrick of exploiting his friend's pain for profit, claiming the listening party was nothing more than a publicity stunt. The post included vague descriptions of alleged contracts and NDA agreements, sparking even more suspicion. The drama escalated when one of Kendrick's longtime collaborators, someone fans always assumed was loyal, suddenly unfollowed him on all platforms. Fans noticed instantly, speculating about a falling out. Days later, a leaked clip surfaced of this collaborator ranting at a studio session, saying, "He's not brave, he's selfish. He opened wounds in everybody else just so he wouldn't be alone in his misery." The clip went viral, igniting debates across hip-hop forums. Was Kendrick really trying to heal, or was he dragging everyone down with him? Behind the scenes, the pressure on Kendrick grew unbearable. A close friend described him as a ghost walking through his own life, attending meetings but barely speaking, staring into space as if haunted. Yet, he still refused to make any public statement. His silence left a void, one that fans, critics, and peers filled with their own interpretations. The mystery only deepened, giving rise to wild conspiracy theories. Some claimed he was preparing for a massive comeback album. Others believed he had checked into a secret rehab facility, and a few insisted he was simply done with music forever. The storm, however, was about to get darker. One night, during an exclusive industry gathering in Los Angeles, multiple artists who had been at the infamous listening party were seen together in a heated argument. Insiders whispered about shouting matches, accusations of betrayal, and tears spilling in public. One eyewitness claimed that an R&B singer shouted at another rapper. He swore this would stay in the room, and now the whole world knows. Security had to intervene before things turned physical. And just like that, the private therapy circle that Kendrick had unintentionally created began to splinter. Trust was gone, friendships were breaking, and the unspoken fear was growing. How much more would leak? The truth was turning toxic, and the ripple effect of Kendrick's so-called worst album had only just begun. The fallout from that chaotic industry gathering spread like wildfire. Blogs picked up vague whispers from insiders, podcasters turned speculation into headline news, and soon fans were convinced something monumental had gone down. Within hours, fan accounts on social media were dissecting blurry photos from the event, circling heated expressions, and claiming to read lips from grainy videos. One post that went viral showed a freeze frame of a rapper pointing aggressively at an R&B star with the caption, "This is no ordinary fight, this is betrayal." What was whispered behind the scenes was even messier. Several attendees allegedly accused one artist of secretly recording parts of the private listening party months earlier. The rumor alone caused panic, Because if those confessions were captured on tape, the careers of multiple household names could implode overnight. One insider said the tension in the room was unbearable. People weren't just scared, they were furious. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about lives, reputations, families. If those recordings exist, they could end marriages, destroy friendships, even ruin entire brands. Soon after, another shocking twist dropped. An anonymous account began leaking small audio snippets online. At first, they were muffled, just fragments of voices sobbing, confessing, or arguing. But even in their unclear state, fans recognized certain tones, certain cadences, certain phrases. Speculation ran rampant. One clip seemed to feature a famous rapper admitting he hated himself for neglecting his child. Another sounded like a singer confessing to cheating on a partner during a world tour. Though no names were confirmed, the internet went into a frenzy, dissecting every second. The leaks triggered a wave of chaos. One rapper, who had been widely suspected of being on the tapes, suddenly went live on Instagram, tears streaming down. His face, he shouted, "You think this is a joke? This is my life you're playing with. You think I wanted that night to follow me forever?" The live ended abruptly, but not before hundreds of thousands of fans had screen recorded it. His raw emotion only confirmed suspicions that the leaks were real. Back at Kendrick's circle, the tension reached a breaking point. Insiders say his phone was blowing up nonstop, with artists accusing him of being behind the leaks. Some demanded he fix it immediately, others threatened to cut him off entirely. One source claims a furious call between Kendrick and a former collaborator turned into screening, with the collaborator accusing him of orchestrating the whole fiasco to make himself look like a martyr. Kendrick allegedly responded in a chillingly calm tone, "I didn't ask anyone to confess. The truth was already inside you. Don't blame me for letting it out." This quote, once leaked, split the fanbase. Some praised him for standing firm, calling him a visionary who forced the industry to face its demons. Others branded him manipulative, accusing him of weaponizing vulnerability for his own narrative. The divide grew sharper, with hashtags like #KendrickTheHeller and #KendrickTheVillain trending simultaneously. But the family drama was heating up just as fast as the industry chaos. Kendrick's cousin, who had already accused him of exposing family secrets, gave a tell-all interview to a gossip magazine. In it, he alleged that Kendrick's album had directly referenced events from their childhood that were never meant to be public. He claimed the family was embarrassed and humiliated, with some relatives refusing to speak to Kendrick at all. "He doesn't just rap," the cousin said bitterly. "He rips wounds open and calls it art, but those wounds belong to all of us, not just him." The interview created another explosion. Fans debated fiercely online, was Kendrick's responsibility to his art greater than his duty to his family? Some argued he was brave for telling the truth, while others insisted he had crossed unforgivable lines. One fan summed it up in a viral comment: "Kendrick didn't just burn bridges, he burned the whole family tree." As all this unfolded, therapy truly became the silent revolution in the background. Reports began surfacing that multiple major artists had checked into private counseling retreats in Malibu, Arizona, and even overseas. Luxury rehab centers suddenly had a waiting list filled with celebrities who wanted to heal quietly. One therapist, who couldn't give names, told a podcast, "We've never had so many high-profile clients at once. Whatever this wave is, it's not slowing down." But with healing came exposure. One particularly dramatic twist happened when a superstar accidentally revealed too much during the live podcast appearance. Laughing nervously, he admitted, "Man, the album had me calling up my dad after 10 years. I was bawling. I didn't even know I had all that in me." Though he tried to laugh it off, fans caught the slip, and suddenly his personal family feud was front-page news. The cycle of confession, exposure, and betrayal kept repeating, and the pressure around Kendrick built like a storm cloud ready to burst. Then came the most shocking rumor yet. Some insiders whispered that Kendrick himself had quietly entered therapy. This revelation, though unconfirmed, sent shockwaves through the fanbase. The man who sparked everyone else's breakdown was allegedly facing his own head-on, but the whispers weren't kind. One anonymous industry source claimed that Kendrick's therapy sessions weren't just about healing. They were about preparing to reveal something even bigger. "He's sitting on something that's gonna blow everything open," the source teased. If you thought the leaks were bad, wait until you see what he has planned. Suddenly, speculation ran rampant. Was Kendrick P. planning to release another album, one even more brutally honest than the last? Was he going to address the leaks directly? Or worse, was he going to name names and expose everything that had been confessed at that infamous listening party? The industry was trembling with fear. Fans were buzzing with excitement. And Kendrick himself remained silent, the calm eye in a hurricane of betrayal. Confession and chaos stopped. By this point, it was no longer about whether his so-called worst album was good or bad. It was about whether the truth he unleashed could ever be contained again. And just as things seemed unbearable, a shocking betrayal from within his closest circle would send the entire story spiraling to its most explosive chapter yet. The storm that had been building around Kendrick finally hit its most explosive peak when the betrayal everyone feared came from within his own circle. According to multiple insiders, one of Kendrick's closest friends, someone who had been present at the infamous listening party, decided to cash in on the chaos. Whispers claim this friend had secretly kept hours of recordings, not just of the music, but of the confessions, breakdowns, and raw emotions that poured out that night. The first sign came when a shady entertainment site dropped what they called exclusive tapes. The clips included muffled but unmistakable voices of major artists crying, arguing, and exposing their darkest truths. One particularly damning segment appeared to feature a chart-topping rapper screaming, "I can't keep pretending I'm okay. The drugs don't fix it. Nothing does." Another clip seemed to show a female singer whispering through tears, "If the world knew who I really was, they'd never look at me the same." The fallout was instant and brutal. Fans were shocked, social media exploded, and the industry went into panic mode. Lawyers scrambled to issue takedown notices, but it was too late. The recordings spread like wildfire, with fans dissecting every second and attaching names to each voice. Careers were suddenly hanging by a thread. The betrayal was undeniable, and Kendrick's name was dragged right back into the fire. Immediately, accusations flew. Many believed Kendrick himself was behind the leak, while others pointed the finger at his so-called friend. One insider claimed Kendrick was devastated. He trusted that man with everything. They were like brothers, and now the whole industry thinks Kendrick masterminded the exposure. The betrayal not only shook his friendships, but also tore apart what little peace he had left at home. His partner allegedly confronted him again, saying, "You've ruined too many lives. Even if you didn't leak it, your silence makes you guilty." Kendrick, according to sources, broke down for the first time in years. In a private moment that one insider recounted, he said softly, "I wanted to heal myself. I didn't mean to break everyone else, but the damage was already done." Friendships ended overnight. Families of artists who had been exposed were livid. One artist's mother reportedly called Kendrick personally, screaming at him for destroying her child's life. Fans were equally torn. Some praised the leaks, saying the honesty was refreshing and humanized celebrities who had been worshipped for too long. Others were horrified, insisting no one's private pain should ever be broadcast. Online debates grew vicious, with fans clashing over whether Kendrick was a healer or a destroyer. Hashtags like #KendrickExposed and #KendrickTruth trended for days, turning every timeline into a battlefield. But the most shocking twist came when the alleged betrayer, the close friend, finally surfaced. In a messy livestream, he confessed to leaking the recordings. His justification? He claimed Kendrick had manipulated everyone into confessing, and he felt the world deserved to know the truth. "He made us bleed for his art," the friend ranted. "So I bled him back." The revelation shattered whatever remained of Kendrick's inner circle. People who had once defended him now distanced themselves, afraid of being collateral damage. Yet, in a bizarre twist, fans began debating whether the friend was actually telling the truth or simply scapegoating Kendrick. Theories swirled, with some insisting Kendrick orchestrated everything from the start as part of a grand artistic vision, while others saw him as a victim of betrayal, caught in a mess he never wanted. Through all of it, Kendrick stayed silent. No interviews, no statements, no explanations. His silence became louder than any words could have been. Fans began showing up outside studios, leaving messages and letters begging him to speak. Meanwhile, the artists who had been exposed scrambled to repair their images. Some owned their confessions publicly, turning vulnerability into redemption arcs, while others lashed out, denying everything and accusing Kendrick of ruining their lives. The industry itself was left shaken. Never before had one album, an album many had dismissed as a failure, caused such deep fractures. Relationships ended, families broke, careers crumbled, and yet at the same time, others claimed they found healing through therapy, truth, and connection. The contradictions were endless. Stop. By the end of it all, one thing was clear: Kendrick's so-called worst album had left scars no one could ignore. What began as ridicule had transformed into the most dramatic cultural earthquake the music world had seen in years. Some called it destruction, others called it rebirth, but everyone agreed it had changed everything. And as fans waited in restless anticipation for Kendrick to finally break his silence, one question lingered in the air: was this chaos the end of an era, or the beginning of something even more dangerous? And that right there is where the story leaves us. Kendrick's so-called worst album became the soundtrack to one of the most shocking chapters in music history, turning studios into confession rooms, friends into enemies, and silence into the loudest statement of all. The betrayals, the therapy sessions, the leaks, the family feuds, it all raised more questions than answers. Was Kendrick a healer or a manipulator? Was this chaos planned, or just the accidental aftermath of raw honesty? And most importantly, if this is only the beginning, what will come next? Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Kendrick intentionally opened this floodgate, or was he just as blindsided as everyone else? Are the artists who confessed victims of betrayal, or are they finally free because their truths are out in the open? Drop your thoughts down below, because this is the kind of drama where every opinion adds fuel to the fire. Before you go, make sure you hit that like button if you're as shocked as we are, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next jaw-dropping twist in this story. And if you really want to stir the pot, share this video with your friends and see where they stand on Team Healer versus Team Destroyer. Trust me, the conversations this sparks will be just as wild as the story itself. Stay tuned, because if the rumors are true, the next chapter in this saga is closer than you think.